Okay. So thanks for joining the call on the demo of SAP S4HANA sales. So here on S4HANA sales, we already aware of right?
Shekhar, sorry to interrupt you.
Hmm.
Once you are done with the demo, we'll share the mail address. Please share the demo recording. Thanks.
Sure, GK. Yeah. Okay, guys. So let's continue. So majority of us know the ECC system, right? So which is the enterprise central component. That means whatever the existing SAP system which is being used, we call that as a ECC. ECC stands for the enterprise central component. So in ECC system, we do have few challenges when it comes to technically as well as functionally. So that's why we have this SAP S4HANA advanced module. So majority of the clients who are using the existing ECC systems, these clients are being migrated to SAP S4HANA sales. So what are the existing challenges from ECC system? Like a existing CRM or else even the SD system as well. So SD, MMP, PFIC, all these systems are being called as ECC only. So what are the challenges do we have in the existing ECC system? So the first disadvantage here is the performance issue. So why do we have performance issue in ECC system? But whereas in S4HANA system, this performance issues have been mitigated. Performance has been improved in S4HANA. So how do we have performance issues in the ECC system? See, whenever we try to execute some transaction, I think Vamshi is trying to join. Hey, hi Vamshi. Okay. Okay, guys. So in ECC system, we do have certain challenges. So that's why we got to know more details on SAP S4HANA sales. At the same time, majority of the clients, they are being migrated to SAP S4HANA. So in S4HANA sales, this S4HANA sales is a module, okay? But the database here is HANA. Database is HANA database. So in ECC system, we never used to have SAP's own database, but in S4HANA, this HANA is the SAP's own database. So in ECC, we used to have some third-party databases, right? Like SQL, some DB2, some Sybase. So these are some third-party databases which are being used in the ECC systems. So these databases, they don't support the RAM, however, the client wants. So these databases don't support RAM. So huge RAM. It supports only limited RAM. Whereas in the S4HANA system, we have HANA database, which is SAP's own database. And we don't have limitation on RAM. So we don't have any limitation on RAM in S4HANA. So let's assume that if you have some 1 TB of database, you can have 1 TB of RAM as well. There's no limitation in SAP S4HANA. That means in the HANA database. But in ECC systems, we do have a lot of limitations on the RAM because we use the third-party databases like a SQL, DB2, and some Sybase. So as I explained in the first point, we do have a lot of performance issues in ECC system. So how do we get the performance issues in ECC? See, basically, let's assume that you created some transaction, like you created some sales order, delivery, or invoice, or you created some credit memo request, debit memo request, consignment, third-party business process, individual purchase order, rush order, cash in. So we have a lot of business process according to the client requirements. When we execute any transaction in ECC systems here, let's assume that you created invoice or billing document. Both are same. Okay. So whenever we create any transaction in the ECC system, basically the system will update this data in the database. Data will be updated in the database here. So this database consists of different kinds of tables. This data will be stored in the row-based database tables. So in row-based tables, the system will update the data here. So let's assume that the client has some requirement to retrieve the data, whether it can be in some kind of BW reporting or else in some table level extraction through AC11, AC16 or AC16N. Or else if you want to send some information from SAP to some third-party system through some interface, or else it can be any one of the ways of reporting. So if you want to retrieve the data, obviously we will retrieve the data from the row-based tables of database. So this data retrieval can be in any one of the forms. Okay. So it can be for some reporting, table level, execution, or else if you develop some report program, through report program, if you want to get some data from ECC database tables in some ALV display, the data has to be updated. Then the system will go to the row-based database tables. From there, system will retrieve that. That's why we do have a lot of performance issues here. So this is not as convenient as to extract the data from the column-based tables. But in ECC system, you don't have any kind of the column-based data storage. Because we use third-party databases. These third-party databases don't support the column-based database functionality. So it's a very pure technical. If you have very high level details on this, it's more than enough as a functional consultant. But the basis consultant should have the in detail details on the database and how the data is being stored, in which table the data is getting stored. If you want to retrieve the data, from where the data is being retrieved by the particular program, or else the database table, or else through some kind of reporting. So if you want to retrieve the data from the third-party database of ECC, row-based database tables, the performance is not up to the mark. That's why we do have a lot of performance issues. Whereas in the S4HANA system, we have SAP's own database, which is HANA. So in S4HANA system, if you try to execute some transaction, like you created some order, delivery, or invoice, it can be anything. So if you execute some transaction here, the system will update the data in the database here, which is the HANA database. So this HANA database, it consists of two different kinds of tables in S4. So one is row-based tables. Second one is the column-based tables. Column-based database tables. So we don't have this column-based functionality in the existing ECC systems. We don't have that. So in S4HANA only, we have this column-based database functionality. This is a new provision which was provided by SAP in S4HANA. So you created some sales order. The data will be updated in the database in the both tables. One is in the row-based as well as in the column-based database tables as well. So in row-based database tables, the data will get updated in a accurate, same like a ECC manner. But in the column-based database tables, the same data will get updated in the compressive mode. So this is not compatible to store the data within a short span. So column-based database functionality is it has a lot of provisions only when it comes to the retrieval. But if you want to update the data in the column-based database tables, it takes a lot of time. That's why the data will get updated in the compressed manner, in a compressive mode. So when you try to create some transaction in S4HANA, data will get updated in the HANA database, row-based tables, as well as in the column-based tables. In column-based tables, it will be updated in the compressive mode. Whatever the data which is updated in the database, the same data will get updated in the RAM as well in S4HANA. So as long as the servers are running, the data will be available in the RAM. But once we shut down the servers, whatever the data we have in the RAM, which will get disappeared. Again, once we take the restart of the servers, the data will get updated in the RAM from the database here. So that's why we call this RAM as this is in-memory computing or in-memory competency. So what do you mean by in-memory computing? In-memory computing means whenever we execute some transaction in the S4HANA system, the data will get updated in the database as well as in the RAM. So whatever the data which is getting updated in the RAM, we call this as a replica. Why do we call this as a replica? Because as long as the servers are on and running, the data will be available here. Once we shut down the server, the data will get disappeared from RAM. Again, once we take the server restart, the data will get accumulated from HANA database to RAM. That's why we call this data which is available in the RAM as a replica. So as I explained earlier, there is no limitation on RAM in S4HANA because we are using SAP's own database, which is HANA. So this HANA database, it supports the same storage of database capacity in RAM as well. So that's why we do not have any limitation in S4HANA system. So this is very high level details when it comes to the database functionality. So any questions so far from anyone?
Shekhar, hi, this is Faiza.
Hey, hi, Faiza.
We all know how the data is stored in the row based in the ECC, right? But do you have an example of how it looks like in the column based? Is it encrypted? How is the compressive mode? How does it store the data?
No, that idea we should be, or as a functional consultant, we don't deal with that. So it has to be handled by the basis consultant actually in real time.
Okay.
But this is very high level, which is actually required for a functional consultant. But when it comes to the technical point of view, like how the data is being stored in a row-based database tables, we don't deal with that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? So you can feel free to ask me if you have some small question as well. Okay. Yeah. So the data will be updated in the database, but if you want to retrieve the data, so let's assume that if you can just go to the table SE16N and if you want to execute, or else SE11, SE16, or we have some custom reporting. So we develop some custom program. When we execute the program, the data will be retrieved from the database tables and it will be shown in an ALV display. So this is how we have different kinds of data retrieval or extraction from database. So in S4HANA system, if you want to retrieve the data will be retrieved from the column-based tables, not from the row-based. So that's why the performance is accurate. So in S4HANA, we got the column-based functionality and even we have the data storage in RAM as well. And along with that, when we try to retrieve the data in any one of the reporting forms, we will get the data from the column-based database tables only. That's why the performance is accurate. And one more important change here we have is, so we have some high data footprint in ECC. So high data footprint means the same kind of data is being stored in multiple tables. So we have some status, right? So we have some VBUK or else VBUP tables in order to check the status of sales documents like orders, deliveries, or billings. So same data is being stored across multiple database tables when it comes to the status. So, but when it comes to the S4 HANA, so the status related tables became obsolete. Obsolete means those are no more being functioned in S4. So even we do have a lot of transactions in ECC. Those transactions also became obsolete in S4 HANA. So when it comes to the master data creation, so we have some customer master creation, right? So in ECC system, we use some VD51 for customer. So that is for customer material info record. You can execute XD01, VD01 for creation. Change mode is 02, display mode is same VD03 and FD01. So even we have some contact person creation, VAP1. And along with that, if you want to maintain some credit limits, where do we maintain in ECC? We maintain in FD32, right? And all this transaction code, even vendor master as well, which is XK01, vendor purchasing and the company code related data. And in the same way, we have MK01, vendor purchasing view creation. So all these transaction codes became obsolete in S4 HANA system. That means these are not being available right now in S4 HANA system. But how are we gonna fulfill this? Let's assume that we want to create some customer, or else if you want to create some vendor or contact person, or else if you want to maintain some credit limits for any customer, then how are we going to maintain in S4 HANA? We will have only one transaction code, which is BP. BP is a business partner. So by using BP, how are we going to fulfill? So for each and every master data, like the customer central data, that means general data, company code data, sales area data, we have some BP role, and company code data, we have some other BP role, and sales area data, we have other. So we use XD01 in ECC system. If you want to create any customer with general data, company code data, and sales area data. But in S4 HANA system, how are we going to fulfill that? So in S4 HANA, we have certain BP roles. So through BP roles, we are going to control what kind of data which has to be created in S4. So if you can use FLCU00, this is a BP role. If you want to create any customer with the company code data. In the same way, if you want to create any customer with the sales area data, you have FLCU01. FLCU01. General data and sales area data. But if you want to create any customer in S4 HANA system centrally, that means with general data, company code data, and sales area data, we don't have any standard BP role which is available. In order to just create some business partner or customer centrally in S4 HANA system, we have a concept called BP role grouping. So once we start our sessions from Monday onwards, you will be able to get more details on that technically. So in the same way, you have FLVN01 for vendor, FLVN01. FLVN00. Even if you want to maintain some credit limits, you will have some UKM000. So this is a business partner rule. So in ECC, we will maintain the credit limits for any customer in the transaction code FD32. So it became obsolete in S4 HANA system. So it's a no more available right now. Okay. So you cannot execute FD32 in ECC. It became obsolete. So if you want to maintain any credit limits for any particular business partner or customer, you have to execute the transaction code BP only. So in BP, by using a certain business partner role, we are going to fulfill the different kinds of functionalities. If you want to create customer with company code data, you have to use FLCU00. If you want to create any customer with the general data and sales area data, you have to use FLCU00, FLVN01. If you want to create any vendor with the purchasing view. You have FLVN00 if you want to create any vendor with the company code data. If you want to maintain any credit limits, you have UKM000. So this is how we are going to fulfill the functionalities of customer, vendor, and the contact person, and the credit limits maintenance in S4HANA will be controlled. And one more major change here we have is we have certain database tables which became obsolete. As I explained, we have some status related tables in ECC. You have some VBUK, VBUK, VBUP. Okay. So this is a document header status and item status. So these transactions could become obsolete in S4HANA, but how are we going to check the status of a sales document? So we do have a different log tables for sales orders, deliveries, and billing documents, right? So for sales order, we have the tables BBAK, sales order header, BBAP, sales order item, delivery header LIKP, delivery item LIPS, billing document header VBRK, billing document item VBRP. So in these existing tables only, we included or introduced new fields like a status. If you want to check any order status, you can directly go to VBAK for header status of a sales order. VBAP, you can check the sales order item status. In the same way, the delivery header and delivery item status can be checked in LIKP, LIPS. For billing document statuses can be checked in VBRK and VBRP. So SAP introduced few new fields in these tables for statuses. Accordingly, this VBUK and VBUP tables became obsolete in S4HANA system. And this is how we will just keep a track of statuses of sales documents in S4HANA system. And along with that, in ECC system, we have a configuration called output configuration, right? So output means whenever we try to create some sales order for a customer, or else we created some delivery or invoice. So when you create the sales order, sold to party should get the output. So the output can be in any one of the forms like a print, fax, telex, EDI, external send, which means email. It can be anything. And even when you try to create the delivery, the output has to be triggered to a particular ship to party. When you try to create the invoice, bill to party should get the output here. So how do we configure output configurations in ECC system? So we configure all the output configurations in ECC based on the condition technique, right? So what do you mean by a condition technique? So the condition technique means we define condition table, access sequence, we place condition table in the access sequence, we define output type and assign access sequence. In output type, we have the different kinds of forms, whether it's a script form, smart form, or Adobe form. Along with that, we maintain the partner function, to which partner function output has to be triggered. It's purely based on the transaction. When the output has to be triggered. What's the transmission medium? Transmission medium means how are we going to send output, like a print, fax, telex, or EDI, or email. Once we maintain the output type, post that we are responsible to create some output determination procedure. In output determination procedure, we will assign output type. And we have requirements according to the different custom requirements. So whether the sales order is complete, then the output has to be triggered. We'll maintain requirement number 1. So while executing the delivery, if the PJ is done, if the output has to be triggered, then we'll maintain 1. While creating the billing document, if we don't have any kind of incomplete messages in the billing document, if the accounting document is generated, if the output has to be triggered, then we'll maintain requirement routine 4. So these are very standard. So it will remain as it is. And post that, we will assign this output determination procedure to the document type, whether it's order type, delivery type, or billing type. At last, we are responsible to maintain output condition records. So when we try to create the sales order, the system will identify what is the output determination procedure which is assigned to the document type. Then it will go into this output determination procedure to validate the output type. It will validate the requirement. Accordingly, it will enter into the output type. It would check the access sequence and the output condition table. At last, it would validate the output condition record, which is maintained or not. If it is maintained, then the output will be triggered. We call this entire concept as a condition technique. But in S4HANA system, if any client wants same condition technique, which is already available. So the same concept can be used in S4HANA as well, same condition technique. But what's the difference in SAP S4HANA sales? The main difference is for sales orders and deliveries, still we need to continue ahead with same condition technique approach. There is no difference. But for any invoice creation, if client wants condition technique, that functionality still which is available. But if any client doesn't want to use the condition technique for billing output, then we will go for BRF plus functionality. So the BRF plus is nothing but this is the business rule framework. So this BRF plus functionality is no more available for sales orders and deliveries in the S4HANA system. Currently, which is available only for the invoice output. So as per the latest SAP release, the sales orders and the delivery, BRF plus functionality is no more available. So currently we have only business rule framework functionality for the billing document only. For still, if client wants to issue the output for orders and deliveries, still they need to continue ahead with the condition technique configuration only. For billing output, if client wants BRF plus, we will use BRF plus. Or else, if client wants to continue ahead with the condition technique, same as in ECC in S4 as well, then we'll continue ahead with the condition technique configuration. So we cannot decide which kind of configuration, whether it's a BRF plus or else a condition technique has to be followed in S4HANA. That's purely based on the client. So whenever we have calls with the client, we will just propose the different ways of solution to the client. So whatever is feasible for the client, we are responsible to show. So the client can choose any one of the options. So I worked on 3 S4HANA implementation projects. In my all projects, they didn't want this BRF plus functionality. But if you want BRF plus functionality, we should be in a position to configure that. So the BRF plus is nothing but it's a business rule framework. In one particular OPD transaction code, we are going to define the different set of business rules. So you don't have to maintain condition table, access sequence, output type. All these condition technique related configurations are not required in the BRF plus. In BRF plus, we are just gonna configure everything at one place. So on what basis output has to be triggered? Whether it's purely based on sales organization, distribution channel, division, sales document type, payer, sold to party, ship to party, billing document, delivery document, sales organization, and even we can define our own output type. So we will define all these business rules in one particular transaction code here. So we call this as a business rule framework. So once we start our sessions, then you'll be able to get more details on this BRF plus functionality. So I know that majority of the people in my this S4HANA sales batch are from CRM background. So you don't have to worry much about it. So I'll cover whatever the relevant topics which we have in ECC as well. Okay. So you don't have to worry much about it. So when it comes to output in ECC, you should understand how the output configuration is. So though it is a S4HANA sales, but still I'll cover the relevant concepts even in SD as well. Okay. And in ECC, one more important change here we have is whenever you execute some transaction here, you created some order, delivery or billing. Then where does the system store the condition type value? So the system stores that value in the KONV table, right? KONV table. So how do you understand the condition type for a specific sales order in KONV? You don't have direct sales order execution here. You cannot pass any sales order to KONV. First, you need to go to VBAK, VB, RK or LIKP tables. So here you will have a field called document condition. So in these tables, we will pass this particular document type to fetch the document condition value. That document condition value can be passed in this KYNV table. Here you will be able to get the different kinds of condition types which are there in this particular line item for a sales order. So this KYNV table, it became obsolete in S4HANA system. It's no more available. But how are we gonna replace that? Where are we gonna store the transaction data, transaction condition data in the S4HANA system? We have a table called the PRCD underscore elements. PRCD underscore elements. So this is the new table which we got in S4HANA system. Along with that, when it comes to some credit management. So in credit management, in ECC system, we have different kinds of credit checks, right? Like a simple credit check, automatic credit check. In automatic credit check, again, you have static check and dynamic check. So in S4HANA system, the simple credit check is no more available. So you have to use the automatic credit check. So in automatic credit check, however, we have static check and dynamic check. That configuration will remain as it is, but we have a lot of changes here. So in S4HANA, we got a new higher level organizational element, which we call it as a credit segment. So in ECC, that means in SD, we never used to use the credit segment in the credit management configurations. But in ECC, what was the higher level credit management related organizational unit, which is the credit control area. But in S4HANA, we will have the credit segment. So this is a new concept which we got as part of S4HANA. Even we have some checking rule. So the checking rule means this is not the availability check related, OVC9 related, it's not a checking rule. So this is a credit management related checking rule. And we have the risk classes as well. This is not the risk category, okay? So even we do have the risk category in S4HANA system as well. But along with that, we got one more new concept, which is the risk class. So this is how we have many changes in the credit management. So let's assume that in ECC, you have any order or delivery or billing document. Sorry, any order or delivery, which is blocked for some credit. Then how do we release that? So we will use the transaction code VKM3 or VKM5. So in S4HANA, these transaction codes became obsolete. But how are we gonna execute the release for any particular document which is already blocked for a credit? So we will have VKM1 or VKM4 transaction codes to release the block for any particular customer and the sales documents. So even we do have a rebate, right? So in ECC, we have a rebate. In S4HANA, we are not going to call that as a rebate. We are going to call that as a settlement management. So for rebate, what is the transaction code in ECC? We use VBO1 transaction code to create any rebate agreement, right? So in S4HANA, this transaction code became obsolete. It's no more available. But how are we gonna fulfill this? So instead of rebate agreement in S4HANA, we will have the condition contract. The T code is WCOCO. Okay. So this is the huge change which we got. And along with that, in ECC system, in pricing procedure, if you can go to V/08, we will have 16 fields. In S4HANA, we will have 17 fields. Along with all 16 fields, we got one more new additional field, which is the relevant for account determination. That is the new field which we got as part of S4HANA. So why do we use that field relevant for account determination? So if you have any statistical condition, if you want to pass that particular condition value to some COPA tables, controlling and profitability analysis tables, then we'll use it. So in the pricing configurations, you'll be able to get more details on that. So in S4HANA, we will have two different kinds of projects again. One is the migration. Migration means the client is already using ECC system. So we are just going to migrate this particular client to SAP S4HANA. We call this project as a migration project. And let's assume that if client is using some non-SAP system, some Angular or else some React, some Java based application they are using. Now, if client directly wants to migrate to SAP S4HANA sales, then we call that project as a greenfield implementation. So in our sessions, we are going to cover both the greenfield implementation as well as a migration project. So whether it's a greenfield implementation or migration, we do have different kinds of master data, right? So they have some customer master and material master, condition master, and CMIR. Even we have some customer hierarchy. Customer hierarchy relevant information. Even we have some output condition records. We have different kinds of data in the ECC system. So, however, we have data here. We are supposed to migrate the same data into SAP S4HANA. So, how are we gonna execute the migration? Before we execute the migration, we have the certain prerequisites which have to be maintained in the system. And we need to have calls with the business or client to understand the importance of each and every field from each and every master data. Accordingly, we will have some harmonization discussions with the client to understand what are the fields which they are using in ECC, and they may have some RISE FWs in ECC system. So R stands for reports, I stands for interfaces, C stands for conversion, E stands for enhancement, F stands for forms, and the W stands for workflow. So if they have some existing enhancement in their existing system, obviously they require same functionality in S4HANA as well. So for that purpose, we will have calls with the business, we will understand the requirement, we will try to identify whether the same requirement can be fulfilled in S4HANA through the standard configuration. If it is not possible, then only we will go for the customization or some new development. So this master data migration prerequisite activities like the mapping sheet preparation and this RISE FW, discussions with the business, all these things will continue in a same parallel manner. So if it is a SAP S4HANA application, they will have the different kinds of landscape, right? Landscape means the development system, quality system, and the production system. So in development system, we can have two clients, like one is 100 and second one is 120. This 100 client can be used for the configuration. So this 120 client can be used for the functional unit testing. And the quality system as well. Even in quality system also, they can have two different clients. 100 client for the integration testing as well as the user acceptance test as well. So additionally, they have some 120 client also. So first, we will extract the data from their ECC system. We will work on the enterprise structure configuration and the RISE FW, functional specification document creation, and the master data mapping sheet preparation. So once everything is done, We already got the information from the client to initiate the data migration. So then we will execute the data migration. That means all this master data will be migrated to the development system 120 client. We call this as a mock one. So we will validate the data here. If everything is fine, then we will execute the data migration again to quality system 100 client. So here the user acceptance test will be performed. At the same time, even we will work on the integration testing as well. Again, we call this as a mock 2. And mock 3, the master data migration will be done to this 120 client to quality system. So this is how we will have 3 different mocks. So once the master data migration is done to S4HANA development quality system, then we will execute the data migration to the production system. And even we have certain prerequisite activities before executing data migration to the production system. So if it requires some master data fields configuration, first we need to move the TR to the production system. Post that, we should initiate this master data migration. So in our sessions, we will keep looking into the different kinds of master data preparation, the mapping sheet creation, and we will have different kinds of discussions with the business. How are we gonna have calls with the business? What kind of details will be discussed in the business calls? And how are we gonna propose as and to be solutions? And we have different kinds of configurations like a credit management, business partner, rebate, BRL plus functionality, the pricing related all changes and the all delta changes, entire the master data migration process and RISE-W enhancement. So we'll keep looking into all these things in our sessions. So once we are done with the entire batch, we will have the interview related discussions. And even we will provide the assistance on your resume preparation as well, along with the interview questions. So if you can attend our sessions, you don't have to go for any other training if you want to go through some certification. So whatever we cover in our sessions, if you can follow and if you can practice in the same way, then your certification it can be cleared. So there are different ways to do the certification, right? So one is just try to understand the entire SAP S4HANA sales, and accordingly you can go for the certification. And second thing is you can just follow the dumps. So we will help you out with the dumps, but that is not suggestible. Even we don't recommend that. So we want everyone to just practice, understand how it is there in ECC and what are the changes we have in S4HANA. How are we going to execute the data migration? How are we going to work on the RISE-W development in the S4HANA system? And we should understand all delta changes. Okay. So we will have the session for 45 days. Again, if everyone is okay, then I'm okay to take session. Even the sessions during weekend as well, I can just complete it soon. So, but our main objective is making sure that whoever joins our sessions, they should be able to understand and they should be able to practice as well. So even we will provide you the server access as well. So we will provide the material also. So this is how we are going to continue with our sessions. So any questions from anyone? Faiza, Amrita, Abdul.
Shekhar, this is Faiza.
Yes. Faiza.
So do you have a schedule of the sessions? Like what is the duration and which day, what are we going to learn?
Okay. So I'll just share you the entire the course content so that we will just follow the course content within the same sequence. Okay. So this is the course content for SAP S4HANA sales. So this is not the only thing which we are going to cover. This doesn't have some migration related approach. So the migration related approach I'm going to maintain. Even the methodology also has to be included here. Okay. So I'll refine this course content and I'll share it with GK so that you can just get the refined course content from GK. Okay. So Even we do have a schedule on a daily basis, whatever we are going to cover and how we are going to cover as well. Okay.
Okay. And Shekhar, it's me again.
Yes,
So
please.
because I'm in EST,
Mhm.
what would be the timing so that, the office time and all that can be adjusted?
What's your convenient time, Faisal?
Um, Either this time on the weekends is good or
Mhm.
1 second, I'll tell you.
Mhm.
So you can, I don't know how early in the morning you can do it.
Mhm.
So it will be my evening time.
Mhm.
I
Okay,
can
initially I feel
text
like
it to GK. I'll text the duration anytime between those times. If it's
okay, okay.
possible.
I'll do one thing. I'll check with GK and I'll keep him updated so that you can get details from him. Okay.
Yes, please. Thank
So,
you.
but according to your availability only, we will plan. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry for the inconvenience, but
No,
this
no,
is
that's okay. That's
interesting. So
okay.
it's
Yeah.
just,
That's okay. No
yeah.
problem. So even that's a convenient time for us as well, because I think majority of the people are actually working. So if you can take the session either in the morning or else in the night so that it's comfortable for everyone. So otherwise it will be really difficult. I understand that. Okay. Yeah. So any other questions from anyone?
So is it a daily session or a weekend?
I'll speak with GK and I'll keep you updated on that, Abhilash. Or else you can just get details from GK. So I did not discuss whether it's during weekend or else on a Monday to Friday basis. So GK would speak with everyone and accordingly we'll get some time on that. Okay. So he will communicate you. Is this Vikram or Abhilash? Sorry, yeah, I didn't see.
It was Vikram.
Okay, okay, Vikram. So GK will keep you updated on the timings. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, this is Meher. How many months it will take to complete the course?
It will take 1.5 month of time.
Okay.
1.5 month. Yeah. Yeah. So ideally it takes maximum of 1 month only, but majority of the people are from CRM background. So that's why even I'm going to cover the relevant topics even in ECC system as well. So that then only you'll be able to understand the difference between in ECC and S4HANA, right?
Okay.
That's why.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No, you can feel free to ask me even if it's a small question as well. Yeah. No other questions? Okay. So as this is a demo session, so that's why I just wanted to cover many things. So that's why I feel like my pace was little more, but we will not continue with the same pace in our sessions. Okay. So we'll go very slowly. So making sure that everyone should be in a position to understand. So I think Lavanya, Ruchi, Shamir, I think these people are from my SD background. Vijay, even Vijay as well. They are from my SD batch only. So you can just get details from them on the pace. How do we continue in our sessions? Even Abdul also, yeah. Yeah, guys. Any other questions from anyone? No other questions? Okay. Oh, okay, guys. So take your time to just take a call on this. So you can provide your feedback to GK on the session. If you are willing to just continue with the S4HANA sales, you can just speak with him accordingly. We will schedule calls from tomorrow onwards. Okay. So you can get in touch with GK on your timings as well. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Super.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.